Clash of LaSh Grand Finals just around the corner. Whoever wins this will be going up against, funnily enough, Core himself and Gaius Julius Caesar in a best-of-3 Grand Finals. First of all, we must say au revoir to one more team. LucifroN playing as the French, joined by Angelica, once again on her signature Mongols. Meanwhile, speaking at signature Civs, Matrix and Mista both playing as Les Anglais. It's a double English opener, and it'll be opening with a Rax from Matrix, but not the same from Mista.
Well, not yet at least. We're gonna have to see if he changes things up. But yeah, as we discussed in the pre-game, which likely doesn't get cut into the YouTube video, there are a lot of layers to this strategy here with the double English. Whether one player goes for Horseman, if they do so, are we gonna see the Abbey being used to heal the Horseman? Or are they going to stick with the Council Hall just as an insurance policy to be able to add longbows? But given the fact that we're talking about Mista, one thing is sure. It's hard to predict what's coming because this guy, his creativity is up in the skies and he has been showcasing that in tournaments over and over again.
Yeah, the best way to TLDR that is there's a lot of layers to the Mista cake. You never really know what he's going to come into a tournament game and throw at you. Now, I've cast games and interviewed him afterwards where there's been a game that looks funky and you ask him about it, he's like, I had an idea. As we were drafting, didn't work out. Like, he's that type of guy that he sometimes he comes up with ideas so quick he doesn't have a chance to refine them. But as we've seen this tournament so far, definitely some refinement to the Mongol English combo. But we've yet to see this double English play. So let's see what it can actually do, because he still hasn't committed to a Rax himself. It looks like Mista is targeting a fast feudal.
And look at that, Man-at-Arms doing damage over here. This is one of the ways that you can throw off the builds of Angelica, because in essentially every single set that we have seen from her, she went for a Mongol Tower Rush to kind of delay the opponent, set LucifroN up with a small advantage that he can increase over time. But you can't just Tower Rush English, especially if they push Man-at-Arms towards you, and you see she even had to cancel a stable, and now the Man-at-Arms is just going to force off the Gold Miner. So this time around, it is her build that's getting thrown off by Dark Age Aggression.
Yeah, I mean, she didn't even go Spears, right? She went for a stable play, which is quite different. It's a lot more pricey, but I think it makes a lot of sense here. You know, you're up against double English. What's the most likely threat? It's that double Council Hall potential we talked about. So even if you haven't seen it yet, you have to prepare for it. And, you know, you want to be building something this early game as a Mongol player, and it definitely can't be Spears. Until you see Mass Horseman, you do not click for Spears ever.
And it's going to be Council Hall for Mista, so no surprise on that department. Matrix is likely going to play with that too. Now the big question is how Mista follows this up, because while that's a Council Hall coming in, I'm like 80% sure that Mista is going to play Cavalry. It's just, it would be so awkward to see double Longbowman plays, and I just don't feel like Matrix would be the player that would be tasked with the job of handling Cavalry with the English, which is not so straightforward actually. It's actually a pretty tricky thing to do.
Yeah, I think something we could see that's pretty cool here is, unless LucifroN can fill clear aggression, if they ever get pinned in, Mista's the type of player that would probably go into Deer outside of his base as the English. Usually you can get kind of a preview if he wants to do this early on. Mista's the type of player, if he's just on farms, on sheep, he will often not get wheelbarrow fast. And considering he hasn't dropped a mill at all yet, I think we are just going to see a quick feudal and probably a very condensed play into farms behind his base. But if LucifroN ever loses the Knights, I would love to see the English players just play onto Deer, get those better gathering rates, and also, you know, allow them to have more wood to invest into more Longbos and those horsemen you mentioned.
And LucifroN is going to play with a couple of Longbows. Barracks now coming out as well. I'm not going to lie, I did not expect this.
I mean, like, it's weird, right? Because there's a French player on the other side, and Knights are actually a really good answer to mass English men-at-arms at this stage.
I'm actually wondering whether that's just a double Longbow Spearman push and kind of just brute force it. I could easily see this being a scenario where you try to just play two separate 1v1s, because if the Mongols and the French can combine their armies, they should have a pretty decent matchup against this. But if they cannot, then suddenly, especially English versus French, when played well, that could be a tough matchup for LucifroN. Might force him to make archers, which is subpar in a 2v2 for the French.
I think they're going to rush blacksmiths on the English side as well. So just get that projectile upgrade, so then you can actually start sniping the Knights at a lower count, right? The importance of doing this is it means that Lucy might not reach the critical mass of knights to win direct fights. That's the issue for him. Like, you know, if you look, you can see Lombo count is already up at 3. That's going to be escalated by Matrix as well. She's already got 1 or 2 men-at-arms in the field. And also the spears being added in. I mean, this is just going to be a cheap trade comp against premium type units. And the question mark that I'm yet to see answered is, what does Angelica bring to the table? What is going to be her contribution to these fights?
Yeah, it looks like she went for the range, but that's where it gets interesting. As you said, she had a very well-defined approach and build to all the series that she has played. And this time around, that got thrown off with this weird civilization combination, and you now see the idea. This is easily just a double focus on LucifroN, and I love this.
Oh.
Think
about... they're going after Lucy. Literally, they're going after Angelica because think about where she has to build her military buildings.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, but that also forces LucifroN to fight, and this is a really good opportunity for Mista and Matrix. If this was a 1v1 and you were a French player making knights against English longbows and spears, no big deal. You add your own archers and you deal with them. But this is a different story. You don't want to make your archers with the French.
No, this is actually a really big deal because, like you mentioned, like you just want to be one-dimensional in your unit choice. The whole idea is Angelica is meant to provide the archers. So if they just camp her, she can't get an archer mass together, and you can never dive them for camping her because the spears keep you at bay. You see the issue here. Archers are going to start moving out to try and counter that. It looks like Mista was ready to go, but Matrix, she was not here yet, so they weren't able to just camp on top of it. So initial clash will go the way of Lucy and Angelica.
Yeah, this only works if both players are there for Matrix and Mista. 1v2, this is not going to work, and... yeah, I'm actually wondering whether Matrix is doing something weird. And
she didn't treat all her troops. She's just sat back and waited until she had like 6 lombos, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
In fairness, the issue she had is LucifroN was coming towards her base. So this was actually just a good play by Lucy. He pushed her back home, and now she moves out without spears. In fact, this many knights, like, this is going to be a struggle right now to get back where they were.
I think the big problem for Matrix was that she had issues with food. Like, she doesn't have spearmen out there. She's on berries right now, and now Longbow's getting picked off. And the thing is that you have to be the tempo setter if you play this kind of 2v1 with longbows and spears, because now knights are going to absorb the damage. Yeah, there it is. Archers would just pick this off. KP.
Honestly, this looks like this could fall apart in 5 minutes now, Lida.
I was about to say that. Like, I feel that this game could be over in 2 minutes' time, because archers and knights will beat longbow and spearmen. We know that from 1v1s. The entire concept was that you shut down the archer production and you just force the opponent to play exclusively with knights, but that's no longer the case. Army numbers are dead even, mobility is substantially higher for LucifroN's team, and the quality of their units are also much, much better. I don't know, I just feel like this didn't work out. The first couple of minutes didn't work out for Mista and Matrix, and now it's going to be very difficult to recover from this.
They have to get back to the drawing board. And, you know, it's that whole idea of movement. It's not just the knights, it's the archers as well. Remember, these lombos and even the men-at-arms move slower than these normie archers. So there's even more dynamic elements here to consider than just the knights. And by the way, bringing back those knights, LucifroN, like the play of the game so far, was that maneuver towards Matrix's base when Mista was parking himself on top of Angelica's production. That stopped Matrix from trickling out troops. If it wasn't for that, maybe when they took that clash in the center or towards the Mongol base, there's 3 or 4 lombos from the green player there. But because LucifroN was threatening it, she couldn't walk out. That was just a great play coming out from the French player here.
Yeah, now numbers are rising for Mista and Matrix, and you still have to respect this if you're LucifroN and Angelica. But they need to be very cautious on how they move out. They lose that army group, the game is over. So I feel that Mista and Matrix may have one shot here to do a lot of damage with one big ball of longbows and spearmen.
Yeah, the issue you now have is you can't walk out your base because you let the raiders out. You can see what's happening here. LucifroN is starting to prowl around. He's like a wolf circling as an innocent sheep at this stage. They'll try to pick him apart, poke him down, but as they do that, you know, Angelica's going to be bringing in the main force. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Angelica maybe considers trying to go up here. Add your own knights into the equation, right? Castle Age knights.
Or men-at-arms, even better.
Oh my god, that doesn't feel good. Matrix, she gets caught on the berries. She hasn't started going farms yet, because all of her wood is going into longbow production.
And it's getting increasingly painful because LucifroN is doing the very same thing that he has done so masterfully against Donati's team. Just stretch out the defenses and keep running circles around your base, picking off villagers.
So I wasn't sure if this double Magadai was a misclick, but now it makes sense. I saw that on the mini-map. They started to move into Mister's base, because remember, most of his forces are defending Matrix's base right now. So just a tiny group of raiders are able to start punishing at this stage, because usually an English player starts to spread their farms out outside of the protection of the TC.
Yeah, and I'm not against those Mangadais, to be honest. You don't want to take a straight-up fight with them, of course, but you can kind of support LucifroN's raids a lot better with those Mangadai, while also still remain pretty good on the battlefield with your archers, because you didn't sacrifice that many resources. 2 Mangadais, especially if produced in one batch of 2, is no big investment, and the return value is great if you use them well.
And notice after they buffer away the initial aggression, they go back to the same plan that they operate by through this entire tournament.
Yes.
LucifroN covers, Angelica goes up. She's not built any more units for the last almost 2 minutes now. It's just been 11 archers and 2 Magadai plus the Khan. So she has to be very close to having the resources for castle now.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Mista and Matrix have a 2-to-1 numbers advantage right now, so you gotta be cautious. Angelica's gonna go up. She also has a pretty good stockpile of stone. In fact, even better than in the case of the games where she went with the Dark Age aggression.
Yeah, and isn't it fortunate when the generation puts two stone points right next to each other? You barely have to move your production to keep double production going. And, you know, it's go now or die in 5 minutes for Matrix and Mista. You can't wait around. This will run through you. You know, the heavily armored units, you have no solution to them if you remain in your base.
Yeah, they probably realize that there is just no archers on the field right now for Angelica. And if she's not doing that, then she has to be going up. But now, as you said, it's now or never.
It's such a big army, but it's such a big map. Like, look, they're already halfway. I think the tech up is going to complete before they arrive. And then it's a question mark on whether they have enough spears to torch down the racks. In the meantime, there's not enough spears at home to defend against this. Lucy is going to try to force Matrix home, but she refuses. Mista comes in behind her and says, forward, march forward. We are not going back. It's now or never.
Yeah, but this could be perfect. Angelica's only started the landmark a couple of seconds ago, so it is still just a 50% completion. Now, will it get spotted by Matrix? That's the big deal. There's a tower to slow them down, and Angelica may have just enough here to buy time until she gets to castle, and then start popping out men-at-arms to deal with this.
She's got it, and she's got enough resources to double produce out of double racks at least here. She needs to be fast about it, though. The torch is going to come in. Remember, Mista bulked up a lot of men-at-arms. 13 on the battlefield, torching through. This outpost is not going to last long, but they need rams. They need to end this fast, because they know what's coming if they delay.
This could be problematic for Angelica, though. She's up to Castle Age, she needs the premium units, but she has no access to gold. That's being cut off from her. Reinforcements also getting picked off. LucifroN needs to clean this up because Angelica may not have the gold to make those premium units.
It's coming. Lombos, undefended right now. Spears are going to react, but remember, there's more knights here than there are spears. So it's not as cut and dry as you'd think right now. The English players, they miss micro for a second, they will be torn to shreds. Knights are going to march past. They see an opportunity to move on to Matrix here. Archers are slowly taking down the spears, but they need to get maximum impact while they can. Men-at-arms are starting to hit the field. Knights start stepping back as they strike a few down. They are surviving. You feel like this is just not enough. They still need more if they want this double English comp to win.
Yeah, and Angelica is still mining gold behind this. Those villagers are left there to be sacrificed, but...
Oh, Mista can't defend both sides anymore. This is too many knights.
Yeah.
They're going to lose all the Lombos. This could be game right now. If they're not taking up behind this could end the game.
Where are the reinforcements? They still have 60 units on the field, but you just don't see the reinforcements.
LucifroN hasn't got all the knights here. Half of them are in the base of the green player. Okay, not half, but it's enough. It's shut him down. He lost several villages there. They're losing the main battle. I mean, this is just good split by Lucy again. And remember, you mentioned Angelica. She's catching up in the meantime. He's sending more knights across the Matrix's base, and Matrix has only now renewed the push of new troops. That night raid delayed reinforcements arriving, and although there's a decent amount of Lombos left from Mista, notice that Matrix's army is nothing.
And neither is Mista's. Most of the infantry Mista has left is actually men-at-arms. They're not spearmen to deal with those knights. Now, many of those knights are battered, though, in Angelica. No more army on the playing field. She's still critically mining gold, so she can still play around with the men-at-arms, but for how long, that's the big question.
Lucy's helping because he's getting a lot of gold right now. You saw me, Villager's got, and now he's playing the pro scouts. We know he loves to do this. Lucy wants to prolong his feud and does not want to go farms. If he has to go farms, it's going to be all over for them. They are still on the clock on both sides here. One to defend and one to end. Angelica getting given everything she needs to keep the units coming out, but Rams are now being built, and you cannot pack up and walk away. This many Lombos will kill your buildings.
Yeah, if you have enough spearmen here on the battlefield, I think Matrix and Mista have a shot. Basically, all the army for LucifroN's team is just knights. If they can take those down, I don't see them being able to hold it back.
You say you got enough spears, but not if the knights do this. They go after the reinforcements. It's only a small bulk and one ram. I love this switch up from Lucy. He says, I don't like the way that this play is playing out. So instead, I'm going to turn on a different movie.
Yeah, he's doing that really well out here.
Oh, I honestly think he could just turn and kill right now because the Lombos aren't assisting. And he's going to send in more on the Lombos. He can win both fights right now. Lucy's at almost 20 knights.
Yeah, numbers advantage are in the favor of Mista and Matrix, but Lucifer has the premium units, 60 knights on the playing field, and only a handful of spears.
He caught them not looking. They didn't brace for that. He got insta-grabbed the moment he tried to return. The panic set in and Mista's army is quickly going to get wiped.
LucifroN and his knights once again here putting on a masterclass, intercepting the reinforcements and then just not letting Mista and Matrix regroup. And from this point on, numbers are equalizing, Angelica stabilizing, and LucifroN still with 14 knights at his disposal. This might have been it for Matrix and Mista. I don't feel like they're gonna have enough momentum to do this.
The issue is now, at the moment they have to retreat, there is still 15 knights. And when you retreat, you run away slower. So let's say you try to go back in on Angelica. LucifroN just splits his knights up and goes in both your bases at this stage. He'll rip apart the villages, and they already have a healthy lead. You can see it, 14 eco up in favor of Angelica and LucifroN. And military count, yeah, the numbers still look good for Matrix and Mista, but keep in mind that it's a heavily armored units coming out of both of the left side players now.
There's a bigger thing as well. It's not just heavily armored. It's the fact that there is a higher mobility for LucifroN. If
it's not just that.
Yeah.
There's a Maganel now, which, what do you do?
Yeah, but honestly, what do you even do against mass men-at-arms, mass Castle Age men-at-arms from Angelica?
Yeah.
Like, she's gonna reach a mass where she can just defend herself, and then the knights will just head towards the base of Matrix and Mista, and there's gonna be nothing left to defend with.
Yeah, and they're moving in now. They're not gonna let this outpost go up. They say if you want it, it's gonna be a high price. Now, I know Mista wears the red, but we're gonna need a blood price paid. Not just wearing red, we want to spill the red. The arrow is going to come out. That is, of course, going to assist the knights to chase here, and that's going to push back. Nice micros. LucifroN peels off to deal with the villager. No outpost going up, which means no attack speed for the spears. Lucy did overcommit here, though. Not enough men-at-arms to stabilize him. But now that he steps back, he will be able to get on the backside onto the Lombo. Second wave is coming in. And remember, the person truly being empowered behind all of this is Angelica. She is now up to 50 men-at-arms, soon to be more, because Lucy is about to make a drop-off of deer to the bank of the Mongols.
Yeah, LucifroN sacrificed quite a lot of knights over here, but he did so to buy time for Angelica to get the mangonels going, to get the men-at-arms going, and now this composition is...
Yeah, that's heavy damage. You're out here. Run! Fly, you fools! This is no longer a battle you can win. This is a massacre.
Yeah, but good luck running away. You got a slow-moving army being pursued by knights, and you can't turn around the fight because you're gonna get destroyed by the mangonel. It's kind of the pick-your-poison scenario now. You can't fight, but you can't run either.
That doesn't even feel like poison. Poison's a slow killer. This is going to be a fast one. Men-at-arms will clash in the center. Notice the knights are wrapping around because the men-at-arms are chunky enough to last long enough. If he gets payday after finishing off the outpost, and through the stealth forest they're going to go. They'll build it in the set. Second wave from Mista is incoming, but notice the breach part straight away on top of him to force the fight again. Second wave of MAA on the way in, but the Maganel has not yet arrived. But remember, once you're pushed into your base, it's a Mongol player with siege engineering improved. So if you do wait, if you sit on your hands, trebuchets will be built.
And it's Castle Age army now in the hands of Angelica against Feudal Age forces, slowly grinding down with that tech advantage. And right now, Mista and Matrix are just falling apart, getting forced back more and more. Towers being built on the front for Yam Network, mangonels joining the party as well. And Mista, he won't be able to hold this for long.
So Boogaloo in, and remember, Matrix, Mista, both of them have heavily invested in the feudal time and time again. There's no room to go up towards Castle, and the Mango has finally arrived at the party. Mista's only choice is to bait it in. He tries to go onto it with a few men-at-arms, but I'm not sure that this is going to be enough to kill, especially with the villager pool to repair the valuable siege.
Man-at-arms chasing Mangonels feels very sad.
He has to run now. He leaves Matrix behind. He's like, you got this, it's all you. And LucifroN, and this guy understands his timings. When he can get away with the greed, he finally builds the second TC. That won't stop him from doing the aggression. There's no frontline to defend anymore. It's just mass Lombos versus Knights and Men-at-Arms. Not to mention the Mangonel that's always looking to crush your dreams.
And crush your dreams, it will. Although there's not much left from Mista to crush, strictly speaking. Only a handful of longbows remain. Villagers will keep the Mangon alive too, and Mista's numbers are just down to a few. Same is the case for Matrix, and as you said, Traction Trebuchets will soon make an appearance, starting to wipe out those buildings. There is probably no way back here for Mista and Matrix now. They are stuck in Feudal Age, facing much superior units with lower numbers. The math just doesn't add up for them.
You can see Mista, I think he was desperately trying to get some deer there, but they're just going to get yoinked away. Any small thing that you hope will bring you back in is not going to be there. I love the way Lucy plays French in 2v2s. It's just, oh, c'est la magnifique. And the second wave of Men-at-Arms, it just feels trivial. I don't think this saves you anymore. And now with the torches out, nothing will save you much longer. Mangonel isn't joining in the party right now. You mentioned trebuchets, but it seems instead Angelica's got a case of the A-click. She just wants to move into the base with all these men-at-arms.
And I love how LucifroN is staying in Feudal Age. He understands that there is no need to go castle here. He can just spam-click the Knight button and just overrun the opponents at this point. They have momentum. Why risk it by going up to the next stage? They just need to finish the game right here, right now.
That's what they're going to look to do. Moving in, onto the farms. Give the idle time, Mista. You know, the only reason he looked like he's somewhat holding is the mass men-at-arms. Well, mass men-at-arms becomes a little bit difficult when all your food shuts down. And considering your opponent has already been mass men-at-arms and age up, I don't know how much longer he can hold. He doesn't want to give it up, but he might be forced to. Lucy now also raiding into the base of Matrix. They will not let up. They can taste the grand finals. And well, all they have to do now is push Mista and Matrix over the edge into the abyss.
Yeah, Mangonel got taken down, but the price to pay was too high, and behind this one, now the farmers are getting slain. Even if they hold off this wave, there is going to be a new one, and Mista doesn't have the eco to deal with that.
The problem is, like, Matrix can't assist. Matrix's eco is unharassed, but too far away, and that's it. Mista, he will plant that white flag and say, I give up, leave me be. Mista and Matrix will go out in third. We have our grand final showdown. It's going to be Core and Gaius Julius Caesar versus LucifroN and Angelica.
A rematch from the second round. The only team that LucifroN and Angelica lost to, Core and Gaius Julius Caesar, it's going to be a rematch of that previous match with Mista and Matrix eliminated. Was an interesting idea to go with a double English over here. For a brief moment, it seemed like this strategy could work. But the moment that first aggression got repelled from the Ovu, you had the impression that this is going to be an uphill battle for them to fight.
Yeah, and it seems like they will get their chance at vengeance. As you mentioned, last time they met, LucifroN and Angelica experienced the lower bracket because of what Core was able to do in conjunction with Julius Caesar. We'll have to see if that's going to be a rematch, especially now that, a resurgence of the impartial, we say, now that it's going to be a best of 3 instead of a best of 1. And I know some people just kind of like in the chat, like, LucifroN's a good teacher. Angelica has got like the APM. She knows what. Of course, she's got the APM. She used to play Dura all the time. You know how much of a sweat lord game that is? You have to be clicking all the time. So glad to see that maybe the tutorage is paying off. And she definitely is no pushover the Mongols. That's not to say she doesn't contribute. It's just the fact that you need to be on the same wavelength. And we mentioned before, like, although the pros will be leading the way, these 2v2s are a give and take. And the thing that I'm happy to say time and time again is that they are both sharing the burden of this win. It's not just, you just enable me. Just do everything that I, like, just get me to my game. Instead, it's usually Lucy trying to get Angelica to her game, or Angelica trying to find a way to end the game, as we're seeing quite often with these Mongol strats.